Welcome back to the show. Today it's going to be really fun. So, have you ever wondered, well, what Jeff Kaplan was doing? The kind of changes that happened after he left? Other insider knowledge? That's actually what we'll be talking about today, because across some sources, more information has come to light, including a situation that is hurting individual developers on the Overwatch team where it hurts, in their pockets, and all because of a policy change that Mike Morhaime and J. Allen Brack were not able to overrule Bobby Kotick on over time. Something that was a long-standing point of difference that finally in 2023, the rule was able to be changed. There's a lot to talk about today. It's pretty wild stuff, so let's get in with the aid of our sponsor. Brilliant, the place to learn by doing across thousands of interactive lessons in STEM fields, and most importantly, done right and made fun. They are bite-sized, interactive, enjoyable, because guess what? The world is cool, learning how it works is cool, and when it's delivered right, not just boring old school rote learning, it's actually a fun and satisfying time. That is why Brilliant, by focusing on real problems, developing real skills, with great tracking of progress, bite-sized lessons that actually fit into your life, are just tremendous. And for a teaser, I love one of the new courses they did. It's called How Technology Works, and it's straight up doing things like, say, computer memory, GPS, passwords, video compression, actually like showing you and you interacting with how those things work. And I just think the world around us is so more rich when we understand the mountains of progress that it's all built atop of. So I'd recommend that. And of course, be it programming, data science, physics, or math, Brilliant has got your personal development goals covered. It is a fun and rewarding habit to build, and you can try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days at brilliant.org/Bellular News, or you can click the link in the description, where you'll also be able to get a 20% discount on an annual premium subscription. So, why is this a video? It's pretty simple. Jason Schreier writes for Bloomberg. He's doing a book on Blizzard Entertainment right now, and he shared some of his sources in light of some reporting that happened last week with Overwatch. Now, of course, yes, he's doing a book. This is obviously in his own interest, but also to do that book, he will have had many sources who are familiar with things at Blizzard, and that does mean that he's a pretty damn good source of information on this. Now, as for what we learned, well, Blizzard employee compensation changes, Overwatch 2's dire financial performance, what Johanna Faris, the new Blizzard president, is up to, the things she's considering, a bit more about Jeff Kaplan. We've got major cancelled narrative plans, including a top-tier character death, and Jason flat out confirming what people were worried about last week. Now, what prompted Jason to do this was a lot of changes happening to Overwatch 2, and I'm going to give you a quick TLDR so that you basically are aware of everything, but I will go through this decently quickly. First up, Overwatch coins are no longer coming from the weekly challenges. Instead, they're going to be on the free Battle Pass, where you'll be able to earn 600 of them, and the weekly challenges will instead be giving you Battle Pass XP. That is certainly an improvement, but I mean, yeah, you're getting 60 more. But I suppose, because they're not tied to the weekly challenges, you are less likely to straight up miss a source of those coins. I mean, if you miss a weekly, you miss some XP, that's annoying, but you can always kind of grind back. As for heroes, they're going to be unlocked for everyone for free. And if you previously did any purchases, like maybe a battle pass or something like that, with the intent of, mainly doing it for the hero, well, there's going to be no sort of gift or recognition that that thing has changed. This was confirmed by Aaron Keller, and it's the sort of thing, look, when those things are sold, they are sold as is, as of the time of sale, so it's not like they would need to do any form of, gift or anything like that. I would just say that a gesture of goodwill certainly is a nice thing, but as we're going to be sort of discovering later, they're maybe not in the situation where they can be doing gestures of goodwill. Then Mythic skins are going to have their own shop. They're no longer on the pass. Premium battle passes will earn a currency for Mythic skins, and then you can spend that in the Mythic skin store, and basically you'll be able to unlock the skins granularly. So maybe you want only the level 2 Quest Watch Tracer. Well, you can spend your way up to that, and that'll be that. Now, this currency, of course, will also be in the store, it seems, but we do not have the full details yet. Overall, this is, I suppose, an improvement. It means if you want an older one of those Mythic skins, like the current Seasons 1, if it doesn't appeal to you, then there still is going to be value in the Battle Pass, and you can get the thing that you missed. That being said, there will be a 2-season gap where, the current Mythic skin will not be purchasable on that store for a bit, which, I mean, is obviously a bit of the FOMO coming in. As for ongoing content, there's a focus on the competitive health of the game. There's a new mode, Clash, in Season 10, along with a map for it. Season 11's got a new map, and continued seasons will be reworking and refining existing maps as well, and they've been talking about their latest hero. Overall, these are positive changes for the game, and if you care about core, like, regular-ass PvP Overwatch, then this is fine, and it does seem that they will be working hard to refine your game, and that is where their efforts are going. Because I can tell you where they're not going, PvE. So, last week, some leaks and rumors were coming out essentially saying that PvE in Overwatch 2 is dead, right? That Invasion was basically a non-starter. Well, Jason Schreier picked up on all of this, and he decided to offer some further context, I suppose, based on all the things that he's learned for doing his book and all of the contacts that he's made. So then, new information via the Game On newsletter that is published for Bloomberg. I'm just going to give you the things that stood out to me. So, bonuses and pay. Blizzard employees get 2 bonuses a year, and these bonuses are based on profits from previous halves of the year. Now, the context is that Blizzard always had fairly low pay for the area that they were in, but these bonuses could make up for that. And certainly if you were, being a bit underpaid, but Wrath of the Lich King came out and sold crazily, and Diablo 3 came out and sold crazily, well, you probably would be happy enough. Overwatch 2's team members in August of 2023, which is when the bonuses for the first half of 2023 would be discussed, they were basically told that the poor performance of Overwatch 2 meant that they shouldn't have received anything. Shouldn't being the operative word there, because the idea here is, like, look, the performance of your game, if the profit share was only based on Overwatch 2, it wouldn't warrant you having a bonus. But the company was basically going to come up with something so that they wouldn't be, completely left short. But the thing that then changed, what is new, is that this month, Overwatch 2 team members were told that they would be getting a bonus of nothing. Of 0%. And this suggests that Overwatch 2 did not make a profit in the period covered by this bonus. Now, this happened this month. This month is March, so my understanding here is this means that Overwatch 2 failed to make a profit in the second half of 2023. So let's have a chat about the second half of 2023 for this game. We can look at the key events, and I suppose in looking at them, we'll learn what hasn't worked. And this is going to be painful. So, Season 5 was Quest Watch. It had a pretty strong mythic skin with Tracer. I thought it had a pretty well-themed battle pass. Season 6 then was Invasion. This was the PvE launch. Remember, the $15 to get into the 3 missions or the $40 bundle. Then Season 7, Rise of Darkness, was a pretty big one. I mean, yes, it had all the usual things, but it had the tie-in with Diablo, where, there was the Lilith. That obviously was a very large thing, and that actually caused a hell of a lot of drama, because the only way to get that skin was to buy the $40 bundle for the season. Of course, in the previous season, $40 meant you were getting PvE and a bunch of skin things. In Season 7, instead of 3 missions that you could play on multiple, difficulty levels with story and cinematics and all of those things, even though, let's be real, they were pretty damn weak, but still, it was the same price. What are you getting for that same amount of money now? Oh, you're just getting a skin, or like 2 skins. It's like, man, what the hell? Also, Le Seraphim, who are a K-pop band, they also did a pretty big tie-in. In fact, that tie-in led to that K-pop group performing at BlizzCon, so that was seemingly quite something. Now, of course, we don't know how that deal was structured. In many cases, you would imagine that it's some sort of profit share indeed, and we've talked about this before, but one of the things that's really helped Fortnite kind of get back into this scene and sort of grow after it had a bit of a dip was doing loads and loads of those branded collabs. But the thing is, and this is one of the things that was cited by Epic Games whenever they decided to reduce their headcount, yeah, they're getting more revenue, but the unit economics are worse, because some of that money has got to go to the person who owns that license. So with Le Seraphim, I've got to imagine there's that, but then there's also the cost of them performing at BlizzCon. Again, though, I don't really understand K-pop that much. I don't really know how much you'd pay for that sort of thing. Anyhow, to end things, this half of the year also culminated with the first month of Overwatch 2 Season 8, which came with the weapon skins that we covered at the time. So when you look through all of that, I mean, that is a lot of monetization opportunities, isn't it? Things that are tied into major game releases like Diablo 4. I mean, man, if it's not turning a profit through all of that, I mean, there certainly is cause to be worried. That being said, profit share. And, well, if the term Hollywood accounting is appearing in your head, that would probably be for good reason. It's not like Jason has a massive smoking gun or anything on that. It's just whenever I hear profit share, I immediately think big companies can certainly abuse that kind of thing. In the same way, you might think about stock options in a company, and that could be used as a very strong incentive. But then when you actually look into the details of how those stock options are vested, it ends up being quite a bit more unsavory. Anyway, that's what was going on. Through all of this, Overwatch 2 was not making money. That's a fairly concerning thing. And I would say, do you think that the likes of Cowboy Bebop and Porsche X Diva, do you think those are going to be bussing on God no cap, bringing in money forever? Do you really think all the Porsche people will be like, oh my God, it's Diva and a Porsche Macan, let's go? Probably not. Now, all of this is fairly interesting. However, in past years, it may not have went like this, because a policy has changed. And that's why the second half of 2023 is having a lovely 0% bonus. You see, in the past, these bonuses that Blizzard did, according to Jason's reporting, would be based on the overall company performance. And I'm sure if you remember the quote, "good times are always just around the corner," that was actually quite relating to these bonuses. Lots of Blizzard employees essentially holding out for when the good times would come and they would actually get their bonuses. Now, if you were working on the Diablo team, you were getting a bonus. If you worked on the World of Warcraft team, you're getting a bonus. But the new thing that changed is that these bonuses are now per franchise performance. Now, in the old system, that would mean if one franchise was in a lull, but another one was doing really strong, well, everyone would be getting something if the company was overall in a fairly good financial position. And when for years you had games like World of Warcraft trucking on, and by the way, I've actually had some of my reporting on the WoW channel be confirmed by, well, independently by sources that Jazz Corden knows over at the company, so that'll be an interesting thing to talk about. Suffice to say, if you're on the Warcraft development team, probably this bonus structure would be better for you right now. But yeah, what happened, right, is over a long time, there have been points of difference between the management of Blizzard Entertainment and the management of Activision. And according to Jason's reporting, it's things like this that led to just generally disagreements, kind of breakdowns between the two sides. Bobby Kotick is reported to have cancelled this policy before he left. So yeah, you know, if you're an Overwatch developer, you really must have an amazing opinion of Bobby Kotick. I mean, he did reportedly, allegedly, quite a lot of fiddling around and interference with Overwatch 1, especially with the Overwatch League that just kind of damaged everything. So he does that. The Overwatch League is kind of his pet project, but what does he do? Well, he basically makes it so that your bonus is 0, and then he gets his lovely golden parachute out of the company where, you know, it's not like he's just getting 300 or whatever million in cash, but overall the assets that he's getting are worth that in the, you know, very, very high, millions. It's a pretty crazy situation. It's not going to feel good if you're on that team. And of course, this is a team that already has got awful morale for, well, many reasons, this being just one of them. Now, of course, on a short-term basis, you can understand Bobby's position in a way, right? If he's focused very much on the immediate profit and loss, he'll be saying, like, look, this team haven't produced the numbers. Why are they getting a bonus when this team over there have produced the numbers and will be getting a bonus? But ultimately, they're not just like different teams. They're different teams that are part of the same overall organism. So for the people who were running Blizzard, it was more about the health of the organism. And the main reason why this line from Activision, this line from Bobby was pushed back on was because from Blizzard's perspective, he kind of missed the key point, which is creativity. Because imagine this. The Blizzard people are thinking, hang on, so if the bonus structure is like this, then all of our best staff are just going to go on the safe bet projects, and we're actually going to damage the overall company, because who would be making a new project that's not turning revenue in some new franchise? Who would be doing that when you can just try to go for a more cushy position and say the Warcraft development team and just get a bunch of bonuses? And of course, while, this would be people acting in their own self-interest, and while you can understand a very tight, profit and loss based sort of focus and that kind of thing, if you think about the company in a 5-year time span, a 10-year time span, I think that's basically the point that those older sort of Blizzard leaders were getting at. There is, of course, a gap between J. Allen Brack leaving and, the whole saga with the 2 presidents that rapidly turned into the 1 president, with Ybarra then going and now being replaced with Johanna Fares. And I imagine some more of that could perhaps be in his book. Now, as for the topic of hope, as it turns out, Johanna Faris, the new president of Blizzard, is actually said to be reviewing, according to Jason's sources, this whole policy around how the bonuses are done, remote working practices, and stack ranking. Basically, these are all company-wide policies that have been very unpopular with people. It's that sort of thing. If you want to reduce the headcount of some of your teams, but you want to do that without actually overall doing a wave of layoffs or having to pay lots of severance and stuff, well, what you can do is maybe change your work policy with, working from home. You could change that and also do a hiring freeze. Some people will leave because they're maybe getting better offers elsewhere, and you won't have to deal with having laid those people off. Then there's stack ranking, which is basically, it's basically bell curving your staff and trying to, axe the bottom section of it. The thing is, though, it's the sort of thing you could understand it top down from maybe the position of a Bobby-like person, but a lot of team leads kind of hate that practice because they can often end up being forced to, pick out who's getting the chop or who's being put on the performance improvement program when they don't really believe that that person's performance warrants that, because it's not being done on a case-by-case basis. It's being done more on a X percentage go on this thing. It's basically a top-down policy, which means that it's not able to suit to the individual needs of teams. I think many people would say it's probably better if you have a little bit more devolved authority, down to the team leads who are actually working with their people, and in many cases should know what's best for their team, you would hope. On changing these policies, apparently Johanna has not came to a decision yet, but again, she is fairly new in the role. As for other things related to this story, there's also pretty interesting stuff. Jason confirmed that Invasion sold poorly and that it is a major reason why bonuses basically seem to crater, right? Now again, I'm thinking about accounting here, yes, Invasion did poorly. Is this because marketing costs went way up and, those went up, but maybe the sales didn't warrant it? Is this how the costs of that project within Overwatch, is it because of how those costs are being recognized in terms of accountancy? Because again, if you want to reduce profit, listen, reducing profits, everybody knows, reducing what your profits are is a part of doing business. There's a reason why people talk about Hollywood accounting. The idea is if you're a Hollywood studio, but you own the costume company, you own the, whatever effects, makeup, whatever, and you can do some funny little accounting here to chip away at the profit of your movie in a way that is very useful for purposes such as tax. Or maybe in a case like this, ensuring that those pesky employees don't get a bonus. Because, hey, why would you give a bonus to the Overwatch 2 team making PvE content when you're going to lay them all off anyway? Why invest in people that you plan to remove? It's probably the kind of cynical decision-making that goes on in a situation like that. But Jason did go on to confirm that from what he has heard, that PvE is rather dead. Here's the excerpt. Overwatch 2 developers were informed that the company does not plan to finish any of remaining planned PvE content and will instead double down on competitive PvP, according to people familiar. Now, thinking about that, it's pretty damn simple. If you are making environments, you're making map layouts, you're doing all this stuff for gameplay, you're balancing things, that is going to cost less money than just making loads of content. All of that narrative, think about all the different steps that's got to go through, all the stuff with getting in the voice actors and then implementing it into the engine. And then all of that stuff, being tweaked, versions changing over time. And then think about, gameplay designers are playing over a mission again and again and again and again. And we need to change something. We need some new assets. And oh boy, that type of content can get so expensive to make. Of course, in the reporting that happened last week, we heard about the fairly interesting thing of apparently at the pace that they were able to go at, we would have been having an invasion-sized thing every 18 months, which I think most people would find to be pretty damn surprising. Yeah. PvE dead, essentially, is the TLDR. Next, narrative content leaks. This stuff's kind of fascinating. So, imagine you're one of these staff. You're probably not happy that loads of the things you worked on have been thrown into the bin, and that means you're more likely to leak. And somebody did. Somebody said, I worked, again, spoilers here, I suppose, if you care, but at this stage, who the hell cares? And this is responding to this shot of Winston. They said, I worked for a month in this shot. I would later go on to work in several scenes for the campaign mode in-game. Imagine campaign being a mode, and they go on to say, none of which will ever see the light of day. They go on to say, you would see Zenyatta standing on his own 2 feet. And they killed Reinhardt at some point in the story. Of course, Reinhardt, he's kind of a death-flagged character. You know, you could have the echoing of the stuff with his mentor character. He's, you know, an older, more experienced member of the team. If you are going to have a character who could maybe go out in a blaze of glory or something like that, it's probably going to be someone like Reinhardt, right? I mean, it would be him sort of upholding the, you know, the values that he learned from that mentor figure in, you know, in that past cinematic. Suffice to say, if you're an Overwatch fan, that's probably interesting news to you that they plan that sort of thing. Rather quickly, though, I mean, not quickly enough for this to spread. I mean, 1.7 million impressions, 33.4 thousand likes, and that tweet is now deleted. Hopefully, more tweets like this do come out. It's always interesting to see, and there is a little bit of just, you know what, screw it. They've laid off the whole team, cancel the thing, let it all burn. We can all understand that, can't we? Next on, let's talk about Jeff Kaplan. This is fairly, well, this is fun. Of course, Jason's being a bit of a tease. A Twitter user said, do you happen to know why exactly he left? Was he butting heads with people at Blizzard because of Overwatch 2, or was it unrelated stuff? Jason says, people usually leave jobs for a lot of reasons, but I think after reading the book, people will have a much deeper understanding of exactly what happened. So I've got to imagine, given the sort of reporting, there's been not much about Jeff Kaplan, so thinking about newsworthiness, I think for Jason, this is probably the thing that he feels more content to do as, you know, a part of his book that's probably going to be, you know, the tell-all story of what the hell happened at Blizzard. He has got, in places, pushback over that kind of thing. Somebody talking about, you know, this is just, you know, money for the book, to which Jason said, pretty much like, Lamau, you think books make money? It is kind of true. Books are not particularly greatly monetized if you're the author. He went on to say, basically, I just want the book to do well enough that I can do another book. I think perhaps this is speaking to him being at a more transitional point in his career. Often, you know, if you've been doing the news beat a long time, but you've maybe found more success for yourself in doing longer term, more investigative pieces, I think eventually there's a time where you probably want to step back on the day-to-day work, providing content for a website, and instead you maybe want to go away, go deep into a topic for 9 months, a year, whatever, produce a book, and have that be the thing that you want to do for the rest of your career. That's, I mean, it's an understandable move, I suppose. If that's how you want to earn the bag, well, I mean, fair enough. But don't worry, it ain't fully bait, because Jason did actually share some direct things about Jeff Kaplan. Here's the deal. He wanted to make the sequel to Overwatch that was centered on a PvE experience. He spent several years helming it, and then he left Blizzard in 2021. It's pretty obvious between the lines that is for a reason. Again, look at his other tweets saying that, well, when you read the book, you will have a much deeper understanding of exactly what happened. That says to me you probably have different internal groups, maybe even internal to that team, who, you know, maybe don't always agree with each other, and of course, maybe don't always agree with what's going on at Activision. So, he spent several years helming this, and then he left. The question is, why exactly did he leave? Well, that's where things do get rather interesting. When you actually take a look at some of the prior leaks, we've had staff working on projects like Overwatch 2 basically saying that the idea of Blizzard quality, that's, you know, in a way that seems like a good thing, right? But often some felt, again, this is not people speaking for the entire team, this is just people who worked on that team sharing their experience. But what was said and then widely was reported on is that Blizzard quality almost ended up being an excuse to just delay something and to not, you know, to not ship, right? To not have that completion urgency. A phrase comes to mind like, don't let perfect be the end of good. Sometimes you can just work on something and work on something and rework it and rework it and rework it to the point where it ends up just being a big sloppy mess. And while I don't have anything unique to share, there is a similar thing going on with Riot's MMORPG project. We know that Greg Street, he went by Ghost Crawler back in his World of Warcraft days, that he was helming that project. He was creating a lot of the team who were going to be building that project. And then he left Riot Games. And we've basically found out that once again, that project has somewhat been reset and that it's a very, very long time coming. And I think we're in an environment where that's just not really okay. Now, certainly that pressure to have like good financials, like that's there, you know, good financials right now, that's absolutely there under Activision. Of course, if you're Blizzard and you have a bunch of projects that are just in the red, but you have a humongous cash cow like Warcraft, then maybe you are going to be like not particularly sensitive to some of those projects just being a big money pit, right? I mean, look how long it took for them to cancel Project Titan, which is then what led to Overwatch. So when I read this, I basically think that Jeff's direction was likely not going to be workable without maybe a bit of a revamp or a rescope or just significantly more time being spent. Per Jason, then a new leadership group took over for various reasons and they pivoted back to PvP. Would have been way too late at that point to nix the sequel. Now this does line up with previous reporting. It actually lines up with some statements that have came out of Blizzard. Basically, Aaron Keller said that they had this crawl, walk, run plan for basically the post-Project Titan future, because the whole thing was Project Titan was supposed to be the successor to World of Warcraft, and I do have a little bit of a scoop for you. It's not like I've said it a few times and it never really gets picked up anywhere because I suppose it's not the most concrete thing, but I have heard it from people who were like on the WoW team for a long ass time. Basically, Blizzard didn't really have confidence that World of Warcraft would be that long in the tooth, and because of that, they didn't really make investments that they should have made early on. A lot of that reason is because Project Titan was somewhat meant to be the successor project to something like World of Warcraft. Not because they thought WoW was going to die, but because they thought, well, you know, we probably do need to have another thing instead of just investing in WoW and, you know, really going all in on the cash cow, which they didn't, which again is a fairly interesting thing. In hindsight, probably a bit of a mistake. I think a lot of WoW players say, you know, where's the player housing? Where's that kind of MMO feature? And I think the answer is those things have always been something that Blizzard could make in the World of Warcraft engine, but because it is an old engine, it would require significant engineering. That engineering is absolutely not beyond them, but that it hasn't happened yet is kind of stemming from a bit of a chronic underinvestment in some of the more fundamental things in WoW, but that very much is something that is, from what I've been led to believe, not the truth today. But anyway, Jeff Kaplan was one of those big people on World of Warcraft, and then he went on, of course, to Project Titan. Project Titan then fails, it gets rescoped into Overwatch 1, and basically it turned out the plan was to do a competitive PvP game, then to expand that world into PvE, and then to move that into a more Project Titan-shaped ambition, maybe an MMO, maybe an MMO light. Again, it's so far in the future, what's the point in even talking about it? I did find it really enjoyable, though, recently, and I mean, more in a humorous way, but actually going back and looking at the Overwatch 2 panels from BlizzCon, and you really can see it. They were going for something with way more replayability that was more than just a, you know, 12 mission campaign. Per Jason, in his responses to readers, he actually said this, and this is interesting. Activision would have been happy to continue with Overwatch 1. This, referring to Overwatch 2 as a PvE game, was a Blizzard decision. And to me, this does point at things not being completely cut and dry, black and white, good and evil, regarding the Kaplan era and Kaplan direction. It's one of those things, I think, him wanting to go full PvE, eventually maybe wanting to kind of rekindle the old dream from the past of Project Titan that, of course, so many people on that team had been working on for so many years. Noble goal, right? I think we can totally all understand that. But Overwatch 1 not being fully supported and those resources going over to Overwatch 2, that, per what Jason's sources have told him, was firmly a Blizzard decision. And in that context, I think we can absolutely understand Activision being unhappy, because Activision is seeing success in Overwatch 1 right now. Players in Overwatch 1 are feeling that success, but are also beginning to have more of a drought in content. All the while, this Overwatch 2 project appears to be basically impossible to make. You can certainly see, well, at the very least, that's a recipe for a few good chapters of Jason's book, which, I mean, you've sort of clickbaited me on it, haven't you? Yeah, I'll obviously be checking it out because, look, it's a big tell-all book on Blizzard that's, that's being created because somebody has reached out to loads of people involved in how that sausage was made. Obviously, I'm going to be right on top of that book whenever it comes out, because what's in that book will have been running parallel to so many of the things that we've been talking about on this channel, so I certainly cannot wait for the information drop at the very least. That is that for today's video. Overwatch 2 PvE, dead. Overwatch 2 PvP, seemingly full steam ahead, but obviously because that is a far less expensive thing to make, and that is why they fired pretty much the entire PvE team. What a bright and rosy time. It's tricky for me, as always. I think that Overwatch 2 is a really fun game to play, at least in my own, very mid-level way, but it's not the thing that I wanted. I just wanted Overwatch 1 to continue, and I was excited about PvE. So many people I knew were, but ultimately I talked to people who were die-hard fans. Like friends of mine IRL, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys. You talk to your friends who are diehard Overwatch fans, who owned, not just like own some random small art book, who owned the big, expensive art book, who would really be all in on everything with Overwatch, and they literally don't give a shit about the brand. So I guess congratulations. This has been a shit show for years. Now it is going to be lean, mean, and very much focused on competitive PvP, and that is why Jason said that there are some hopes internally for that direction, because I suppose they know what their gameplay numbers are right now, and they probably know that if they axe all of the extraneous expenses and just focus on the core game, that they can just run a profitable thing, but not a cultural phenomenon in my estimation. What do you think? Let me know, and I'll see you next time.